Ladies and gentlemen, we have Captain Doom and Gloom himself talking about extremely horrible conditions in the economy. It's okay. Is that okay if I do audio? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Captain Doom and Gloom himself talking about extreme conditions in the global economy that have him worried. And when I say Captain Doom and Gloom, I'm talking about Tim Cook, the Chief Executive Officer of Apple Incorporated. Hey, wait a second. Wait. If that dude's the CEO, he's supposed to be all bright and cheery and rosy and talking about how Apple's going to do great and the economy's going to do great and things are going to be great. So buy the stock, buy the products, and don't worry about nothing. So wait a second. So if we've got a top CEO of one of the top companies talking about, holy crap, we're in deep shit, that's a bad sign, right? It seems like a real bad sign. But let me check with Tim Cook. I mean, I want to know just how is the global economy really doing?
Really bad.
Oh, well, wow. Tim Cook looks kind of weird. We got this. Don't panic. Deal with it.
Wait.
You're starting to see pictures, ain't you?
Stay cool.
There were other people. Why should you be the only one involved?
But I am involved. We are all involved.
I need your love.
This is a Thor News presentation.
Doesn't matter what I believe.
Hit the button, baby.
The people have the right to fight for their lives.
Thor News presents. Now we've hip-hopped on over to Bloomberg, and we're reading an article, because that's what we do. Tim Cook. We're seeing extreme conditions unlike anything we've experienced before in the global economy. Signs of softness. And just like no man wants to be impotent, no economy wants to be impotent either. So that's what we are trying to avoid, people. A flaccid dollar. This article is by Luke Kawa, January 26th, 2016. You know, it's weird because in the Bible, it kind of blames Eve for the fall of the Garden of Eden by eating the apple and for the fall of man and original sin. But watching the entire tech boom, it makes it seem like the real fall of the Garden of Eden due to the apple of knowledge comes from a bunch of rich white dudes. And I say that as a poor white dude. So I just wanted to note that because I've always thought that it was weird that Apple was named Apple, you know, and I think it's weird that Google became Alphabet. I'm like, what the hell what is that about, you know? And it's kind of like the opposite thing when Google was like, do no evil. It's like when they changed their name to Alphabet, it was like they were kind of ditching the do no evil mantra. Sometimes if I look at Larry Page, he seems like he likes robots more than human beings. But I don't want to make a gross character assessment on someone I don't know. I was just saying from some photographs I've seen. So what's keeping the CEO of a company that just reported the most profitable quarter in history up at night? For Apple's Inc., Tim Cook, it's the economic challenges all over the world. Wait, let me think back to the giant crash of 2008 when banks were way out of control and lenders were way out of control and creditors were way out of control and Moody's was way out of control and the mortgage-backed security rating companies were way out of control. What did they fix exactly? Oh yeah, nothing. They just pumped about $15 trillion into the economy. They punished the people who brought our economy to its knees by giving them a whole lot of money. Wait, isn't that usually called blackmail? All right, we'll move on. As Tim Cook is saying, this is a huge accomplishment for our company, especially given the turbulent world around us. Well, let me disagree with you there, Tim. I've seen consolidation across all major industries, where you're going from like 100 banks to 10 banks, or you're going from 500 oil companies to 5 oil companies, or you're going from 20 software companies that, you just got your majors. All the medium class and small businesses are all getting eaten alive, and we're pretty much getting down into a 5 corporate war, like 5 corporations who will then rule the world. Isn't that exciting? Isn't this the wonderful future we all dreamed of when we were kids? At least they could have done is give us jetpacks. Or not been such fucking dicks in the media, man, trying to divide and conquer us, like make men women and women men and fucking dogs cats and wet dry. And, it's just, goddamn, get your dick out of my brain! Sorry about that. Where was I? This is a huge accomplishment for our company, especially given the turbulent world around us, said Cook, immediately after running through the company's quarterly financial highlights on a conference call. And remember, when a company like Apple is buying back like $50 billion worth of stock, they're not doing it with the giant mountain of cash they have on hand. They are borrowing from American banks at these record low interest rates. So if the shit hits the fan, they're not really on the hook for it. The banks are. I digress. Ever since the surprise devaluation of the Chinese yuan in August, was it really that big of a surprise? I think we all knew China was going to depeg and devalue, just like every other country in the world. I mean, if you're paying attention, it wasn't really a surprise, Bloomberg. I mean, you guys not pay attention? The potential for a hard landing in the world's second largest economy has been front of mind for investors. Cook did nothing to sausage those concerns. I'm sorry, but at this point, it feels like we're the sausage and the giant corporations are the sausage makers. So please don't sausage me, Mr. Cook. While pointing out that Apple had been performing quite well in China last summer, unlike some other firms, he suggested that the forward outlook was not nearly as bright. Well, duh. Notwithstanding these results, we began to see some signs of economic softness. There's that economic limp penis thing I was talking about nobody wants. I don't want to talk about limp penises. I want to talk about, okay. We began to see some signs of economic softness in Greater China earlier this month, most notably in Hong Kong, he said. Meanwhile, the other major markets for Apple, including Brazil, Russia, Japan, Canada, Southeast Asia, Turkey, and the Eurozone, have been roiled by slow economic growth, the downturn in commodity prices, and weakening currencies. Our results are particularly impressive given the challenging global macroeconomic environment, said Cook. We're seeing extreme conditions unlike anything we've experienced before, just about everywhere we look. Let me repeat that for you. From the CEO of Apple, we're seeing extreme conditions unlike anything we've experienced before, just about everywhere we look. For Apple, which generates roughly 2/3 of its revenues outside the U.S., this is no small matter. The lofty U.S. greenback crimped revenues received abroad, with Cook specifically citing the adverse effect of weakness in the British pound, euro, Canadian dollar, Aussie dollar, Mexican peso, Turkish lira, Brazilian real, the Russian ruble. Yeah, basically every currency's been devaluing itself. Everybody's been printing money, and they've been in like some orchestrated symphony of devaluing their own currency. I mean, sweet gig if you can get it, you know what I'm saying? Like instead of actually fixing problems, you just print more money, which sounds like ingenious thing to bankers and politicians, except it always leads to a hyperinflationary event, which causes the fiat currency to collapse in a 7-day span. And the hyperinflationary event has happened 33 times in the history of mankind, but never has it happened when you had a global reserve currency, which would then sink every economy overnight, and you would have no money of any value to do any trading goods, which would lead to absolute lawlessness, chaos, rape, murder, pillage all over planet Earth, which would take us probably 1,000 years to recover from, if ever. So that is the situation we are trying to avoid. That's why I proposed the 100-year Earth truce, where no nation shall war against another nation. At some point, we do have to have a global jubilee, and at some point, we do have to have a global currency. I'm sorry, people. I know that scares you, but it's a matter of it has to be done eventually. If you have 100 nations all printing their own money, you're going to have major problems. And granted, you can have major problems if you have a global currency. So if everybody would just stop acting like they know everything and acting like everything's going to be bad, we could come up with some good plans and good projects, because this is the real problem. The hyperinflationary event. We have to head it off and fix it before it happens, because if we don't, all hope is lost. And so I know a lot of you are scared of a global currency, but it's the only thing that makes sense. It's a matter of how you execute it that can make it either very good or very bad. And having everybody just quit on me ain't helping at all. Having everybody just bitch and moan on the fucking internets ain't helping at all. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, according to Cook, these foreign exchange fluctuations shaved 15% off revenues the tech powerhouse earned abroad relative to its fiscal fourth quarter. Anyway, I've said enough. I've said too much. Probably didn't say it well enough, and for that I apologize. Yeah, the economy's in fucking trouble, man. I mean, I ain't being no doomer and gloomer. I'm just speaking the truth. If you've been following fundamentals at all, it is a fucked up, beyond all recognition situation across the board, and nobody's fixing everything. And I think even the richest of the rich are starting to panic. And I think the richest of the richest of the richest are realizing whatever 100-year, 1,000-year plan they had in place might not work. All right? God bless everybody. Remember, if we work together, we can fix and solve all problems. Peace out. Stay cool.